Welcome to Dojo Live, the place where top minds in travel and hospitality check in to share insights and breakthroughs shaping the industry. Brought to you by Encora, your trusted partner for AI, cloud, and data-driven innovation. Enjoy your stay. Hello, hello, and welcome back to Dojo Live, where we explore the trends and technology that are shaping the future of travel and hospitality. I am your host, Kim Lantis, and I'm thrilled to be broadcasting live again. It's been over 3 weeks now, if you can believe it. And why the hiatus? Well, got one word for you. High tech. So, joining me for today's conversation is someone who really needs no introduction. That's Katie Moro, Vice President of Data Partnerships at Amadeus Hospitality. Katie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to see you again. Hi,
Nice
everyone.
to see you following up that high tech conversation. And we're also joined by Shridhar Padmanabhan, Encora's VP of Travel and Hospitality. Shridhar, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Kim. Great to meet you, Katie. Looking forward to the HITEC recap.
It
Very
is
excited. Yeah.
going to be a great high tech recap. Today's title is Technology Breakthroughs and Predictions from none other than High Tech 2025. We're going to be asking what stood out on the high tech floor, what trends will shape hospitality's next wave of innovation, and what it really means for your hotel right now and moving forward. So, we're going to be looking at AI powered alignment, personalization that guests are increasingly willing to pay for, unpacking it all. So we've certainly got the right minds here, I think, to do that. But let's start with you, Katie. I know that you've been deep in hospitality data for years now. What makes high tech a meaningful event for you? I mean, both professionally and personally.
So for me, it's probably one of my most favorite weeks of the year from a professional and personal perspective, right? So on the professional side, I get to go and learn new things. I get to understand what other partners are doing in the industry and how I can be better partner to them to help our customers drive value. And on the personal side, I mean, I've been in this industry for 20 years, and there are so many people that I've worked with at different companies before, and to get to see old friends, customers, I mean, it's a blast every year. I look forward to it. So
It was so much fun. And I think that
it is.
for me, the parties this year were super fun. I super liked the Lucas Oil Stadium. I had never been into a professional football field before, so that was really
Oh,
cool.
I
And
didn't even
and
get
as
to go. That's exciting.
oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And as a mom, especially, I believe you're a mom too. I like the break a little bit from having to not prepare food or wash any dishes or take care of
Absolutely.
anybody.
Yes. Yes. There's some benefit to work travel for sure.
Perfect. Trudar, what about you? What brings you to high tech year after year?
I think some of what Katie said, I mean, so many people at one place that you hear about in the news or you are connecting with them from time to time, and the opportunity to actually, set up some meetings, shake hands, and say, hey, it's been a while and let's grab a coffee or something like that. And also, there's always so much more information that you exchange in person than what you
Absolutely.
can see online in LinkedIn or in meetings and things like that. So it's a huge rush just to be at high tech and meet everybody in person.
Absolutely. Katie, I know that you got to co-host an exhibitor tutorial session with Joe Spirito of Amadeus as well as Shane O'Flaherty from Microsoft. I believe this focused on how AI is breaking down commercial silos. What kind of seemed to resonate most with you, the attendees? Why do you think that message struck a chord perhaps this year?
So I think we kind of discussed it when we were together, but Amadeus has a very strategic partnership with Microsoft. And it's been great to work with Shane, who really knows the industry from the Microsoft side, to be able to work together to find how can we bring value together to our industry. And so it was nice to be able to actually get up on stage and talk about it. And we did that at High Tech as well as the HSMAI event. So that was really a great opportunity to reach different audiences and talk about the value. And I think for this year, it was really, I think in the past, AI was kind of more of a buzzword and it wasn't happening, but now it's happening, right? And we talked about when we were together that we launched the chatbot in Demand 360, and people are able to now ask questions in natural language of the data. And so people are really starting to see the value that AI brings and how it could increase revenue as well as for me, most importantly, streamline operations and get more value out of your employees to make them more strategic, et cetera. So I thought it was a great session. Microsoft's a great partner, and I look forward to even more things that we can do together to bring more value to hospitality industry.
Absolutely. And for me, there's the three P's. For me, there was a lot that's coming up. There was the personalization side, the people
Yes,
side, and the partner side. And I think that those AI is what's actually bringing a lot of that together, this realization that it's
absolutely.
happening, but also we can't do it alone. Right. And so I think that's the partner side is super key.
It's
Um,
critical. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Beyond your session, what else kind of caught your ear? Did you get a chance to sit in on any of the other educational sessions or tech showcases? I know you're probably really busy manning your own booth with all those meetings and everything, but what themes or concerns maybe kept surfacing in the conversations that you've had with hoteliers and the big P partners?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, so I lead partnerships, right? So this is a great opportunity for me to meet with the partners. For me, it's more about how do we grow partnerships, but I definitely think kind of the themes, of course, AI, advanced analytics is what we're seeing a lot of, and different tools and things like that. So that's kind of fun to be able to see how people are really bringing data to life and making it more accessible. But yeah, I did have a lot of meetings and things, so I wasn't kind of everywhere learning more, but definitely it's like we talked about, right? It's good to just actually, you get so much more out of face to face and what people are doing and the value they're bringing. And then how can Amadeus leverage these partners again to bring that value back to the hotel? So for me, yeah, it's just kind of listening and learning what everybody's doing, because otherwise it's hard to do that, right? There's not enough time in the day to do all of these teams meetings. So I thought that was, for me, the biggest takeaway for sure.
Perfect. How about you, Shridhar? Was there a session or kind of an overall general theme takeaway that you kept hearing time and time again that you found particularly interesting at High Tech?
So I think there was a Wednesday evening session that Ira hosted that had Happy, Louis Aguero from Happy, Sebastian Leitner from Cloudbeds, and so on,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And Sebastian Leitner could not contain himself about the excitement of the possibility of what AI. And Ira kept telling him, "Hey, don't stop selling cloud bets." But he said, "No, this is not cloud bets. This is all of us. This is everybody. This is the whole industry, and it's coming and it's here." So his enthusiasm was very infectious, and it was very real. Uh, and I think what he was talking about in terms of how integrations might be managed better for an organization such as Cloudbit. It has repercussions and use cases across the industry. But I found that session to be very, it was late on Wednesday, but I found it to be so energizing.
I muted. And speaking of that session and Earwoke, it brings to mind just now, and I'm gonna kind of drop this on you because we didn't talk about this pre-show, but it made me think then the flip side of a conversation that also happened with Carl Winston, the founding director of Payne School of Hospitality, and he wanted to just shed light on sort of the ethical responsibilities, some of maybe the dark sides of AI. Did you guys get to chime in on that at all? Or is with all this hype and all this excitement, and even the use that we're seeing, what maybe are we steps is Amadeus taking, or how are we also considering that piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, and this is not the first time I've heard that, right? Customers have brought this to our attention, so it's definitely a topic. But I mean, for Amadeus, from a sustainability perspective, it's a huge part of what we do, and so this is all being taken into account. And how can we, decrease our footprint and things like that? I don't know all the technical details about how all that plays out, but I do know that it's a focus for us. And I'm actually working with our sustainability officer on a project right now, and I see where those concerns are coming in. And so now we have to figure out how do we optimize that and how do we make sure that we're doing our part. But it's definitely a focus for us.
Perfect. I'd like to dive a bit deeper into something that you mentioned earlier in today's conversation. And no surprise, last year everyone was really talking about AI. As you mentioned, this year it felt a lot more grounded, that we're finally moving from that hype to the reality. You mentioned, I think, the real language happening in your platform. How else are you actually seeing hotels beginning to implement AI in a smart, more scalable way?
So I work obviously with a lot of hotel customers, and I'm starting to see their internal chatbots that they're starting to bring to life for their individual properties as well as their corporate employees, of course. So for me, I think that there's so much opportunity in how do we start to bring this together, right? So they have maybe their internal chatbots that they can ask certain questions of, obviously using their own data. How do we come into play and then have your benchmarking information being able to ask by all hotels globally for a brand or whatever the case is? Doesn't matter if it's a one-off independent or a big brand, it doesn't really matter. But I definitely I'm seeing, and obviously we're using Copilot internally, and some of the, again, the operational efficiencies, I'll keep going back to that because obviously post-COVID, we're expected to do more with less in the hotel space. And so these efficiencies, I think, are critical. And this is where I think AI is helping. And I think that everyone's starting to see that. So it's like, let's launch internally first. Let's start to get people accustomed to what they can do with it. And then how do we bring in our partners so that they can have, our hotels can have access to more data through potentially your internal chatbot, right? That's all possible. And so I'm excited that I start to finally see that internally hotel companies are bringing it on board, because then that helps us be able to make sure that hotels are more comfortable leveraging the chatbot and being able to have conversations with it and understand the true value that it can bring.
Absolutely. And it made me this just that interoperability, I don't know, or communication so easily between hotels
Absolutely.
m- made me think, and not just from the data perspective, but like even a security perspective. I had a conversation, I believe it was with Chargeback Gurus, about how, maybe with one hotel, a fraudster might get flagged, but then they can go to the same, a hotel within the same brand down the road or whatever and do the same thing. And so even those types of conversations may be happening much more conversationally, much more accessibly, and across the whole spectrum is
No, I
fantastic.
agree. And if you think about, like, from a housekeeping perspective, right? Right now, a lot of the housekeepers are using mobile phones, they're texting one another, WhatsApp, and all of these kind of not secure ways to communicate. And so this is where I think you bring that into a Slack or a Teams or whatever you're using, and you create AI capabilities. And I feel like the communication, like we have our hot sauce platform that, they can communicate in a secure way, which is critical, right? So I think we'll see more and more AI into your communication methodology, whatever that is that you use, right? Team, Slack, et cetera. I don't even know anymore, actually. But I think we'll start to see more and more of AI evolve in those platforms to help those frontline workers be able to communicate more effectively.
Beautiful. And it leads into what we've heard. I don't even know where the original quote was anymore, but it's not AI that will replace your job. It's people who can effectively use AI that will replace your job. And even in something like housekeeping, this might be coming into play. Interesting.
Absolutely.
Shridhar, anything that you'd like to add here in terms of what you were hearing as well? Are you seeing some of
Yeah.
these same shifts, keywords?
And I think, yeah, so last year it was all about, maybe Gen AI and customer experience. And to Katie's point, the couple of use cases that I think all of us can relate to, right? So in a resort, if there's a family near a pool and the family can, one of the, parents or adults who's there can get on a chatbot and say, hey, could I have more towels delivered to my room? Now that's a chat request. Now, instead of having somebody queue that request, maybe we are now going to see the AI system or whatever automatically queuing it up to somebody who will go deliver it, and then you know checkbox the task as having been completed, and somebody asking the guest back maybe later in the day, I hope you got your towels or something like that, right? All without somebody having to queue that task to somebody. And in the same way, we're busy, we're traveling for work, we head out of the room, we're in calls, we're in a Uber or whatever it is. Maybe we're just going to say, hey, can you please have extra coffee pods in the room? And the same thing is going to get handed over without human intervention. A human will fulfill that request and then come back and ask. So I think that integration, like you said, Katie, doesn't have to be over Slack or Teams. But it does happen. And those integrations, just a couple of simple use cases, I think we're going to see that in before next HITEC. I think that's my guess.
All right, all right. I love it. Now we're going to bring it back to you, Katie. We're going to talk about your favorite thing, the D word, data, data. I don't know. What do you say, data or data?
I say data, but a lot of people say data. So I think it's like tomato, right? It doesn't matter.
Aunt, we got it. All right. It's everywhere, and it was everywhere at HITEC, and rightly so, right? Because there's no quality AI without the quality data.
Absolutely.
What's your take on how hotels can filter out the noise and zero in on insights that actually move the needle? And where are you seeing them using the insights, and in what needles are they moving?
Yeah, so I mean, I think number one, and I think I've probably said this a million times if you listen to me speak, is number one, it has to be clean data, right? So if you're a hotelier and you're really interested in getting on this journey of AI, you have the data input has to be accurate, right? So I know that that's maybe not the noise you're talking about, and I'll come to that in a minute, but there is noise in many data sets. So you have to figure out how you clean that data to make sure whatever you're inputting into AI, that it is clean and obviously can provide the right recommendations for you. But for me, for how to eliminate the noise, we're working on a solution like with prescriptive analytics, right? So if you think about the amount of data that sits out there, and it's not just within Amadeus, right? All of your internal data, other vendors, other, different parts of the hotel use different, food and beverage, et cetera, right? So you think about all the data that lives there. And so sometimes it's just overwhelming. And so I think what we're trying to do in this prescriptive analytics is be able to highlight to hotels where is your biggest concern or your biggest opportunity. And so really highlighting those anomalies and getting rid of the noise. Focus, if you only have 10 minutes, or if you're a GM in an elevator going check rooms to make sure they're cleaned properly, look at those three things. What are those 3 days that you need to pay attention to make sure you're properly staffed, you have the right price out there, all of the decisions that you make based on data, making it super simple to digest. And so I think that that's really what hotels need to be looking for, is not only where do you get data, but then how do you find a partner that's going to help you and guide you to the answers in some way, shape, or form, because it's really going to help you be able to leverage the data better.
Absolutely. And then I imagine this being iterative, right? Like those three things are going to change, and
Absolutely.
you can get into this rhythm and always or have a higher likelihood, maybe not always be, but have a higher chance of being at the top of your game, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Let's dive a little bit into some of the latest research that Amadeus showed. You're showing that guests are willing to pay more for personalized experiences. How did that statistic line up with the conversations you were having as well? And are hotels leaning into this?
I mean, I think they're all in, right? So if you think about from an Amadeus perspective, if you think about ACRS and our next gen reservation system, obviously Marriott, Accor coming on board, they're bought in to the journey around attributes, right? And being able to personalize the offer. And so when you think about some of the biggest hotel companies in the world getting on this train with us, it's because they've looked at, and obviously we're very familiar in the airline space, but they've looked at what's happening in retailing in the airline space with NDC, et cetera, and seeing that the revenue opportunities for upselling and things like that are great, right? Retailing is such an opportunity in our industry. And so what we've seen in our latest report, you could see that people are willing to pay more. I think post-COVID, people realize that there's life is short potentially, and it's like, let's spend the money to make my trip exactly what I want it to be. And so I think that, we're on that journey to support where the hotels are going. So yeah, I'm really excited. And I think one example that I shared with you last time that I think is worth repeating, right, is that, you look at how people want, certain views, et cetera, right? And so being able to bring that in, using data to do that, and being able to properly target people, where they are, I think is critical to success in the future.
Absolutely. You talk about specific views or specific experiences. Of course, this makes me think of social media, that influencer driven discovery,
Yes.
how that's reshaping where guests are deciding to stay, or in sometimes what they're deciding to do before they decide where to go and where to stay. Um,
Absolutely.
how are you hearing these kind of creative or scrappy strategies that hotels are testing out? How is this connecting back to data? I mean, how is this all going to cycle back through together? And what kinds of things might hotels be doing to help, influence their success with the influence?
Yeah, and I think so. I mean, I think it all starts with data, right? And so I'll kind of take you through the journey of one example, right? So if you look at some of the airline data, which historically hotels don't leverage airline data to its fullest potential, and I think that there's so much opportunity around that. But one area that hotels can see is looking at the number of travelers by age group, right? And if you think about, if you're over 65 plus, probably targeting on TikTok is not going to drive the results that you're trying to achieve, right? But if somebody is in their mid 20s, then maybe that's where you should start to think about. But if you take that even further and you talk about the influencers specifically, then I look at, and you could see that in our traveler trends, that in Asia, they're highly influenced by Asian travelers are highly influenced by social media, by YouTubers and TikTokers, where in the United States, it's not a driver. So understanding that then helps you figure out, okay, well, how do I do that? How do I associate myself maybe with the biggest YouTuber or whatever the case is, so that my brand can be recognized by them, which ultimately is going to drive demand. And so it's knowing where your travelers are coming from, what's the age range, and then you start to put together your strategy around social media, really distribution overall. And I think that there's so much opportunity in that.
Absolutely. It's super beautiful. And I think the strategy from, the social media side, the marketing side, are we also tapping into the experience side? Is there data being pulled from the area in which we're located, or the community side? I don't know if I'm making sense in terms of why people are coming to the community and how I might be able to also uh, influence that, or in the retailing side, include something in my hotel.
Yeah, so I think that the hotel industry is just starting on that journey. I mean, that's my personal opinion, right? But I think we're just starting on that journey. But I do think that if you think about not only the attributes in the hotel, but then also to your point. So if you wanted to go to adding on certain experiences, and that's the retailing I'm talking about, where you can log on to the website of a hotel, not only book the hotel with your attributes and all of these things, but also I want to add on a food tour, right? I'm in Bangkok. I want a tuk-tuk tour, right? And so I want to add that on. And I think that there's so much opportunity. And then obviously the hotels can benefit from that for in many ways, right? But I think that I don't think we're there yet on that journey, but I believe it will be coming.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense, and I hope so too, because that's how we naturally are shopping anyway, right? I
Absolutely.
appreciate the recommendations, or when I'm on Amazon or wherever, and I'm looking at a product, and then down in the bottom, I'm like, oh wait, I think I might like that one better, or oh,
Yeah.
that's a great compliment. And we're so used to that ease of just click, 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 click,
Yes.
and then having the bundling, right? So that's
Exactly.
definitely something that
It's
I look.
dangerous on a day like today on Amazon Prime Day, right? When they give you all these recommendations.
Oh no, I had actually forgotten about that. Thank you for the reminder, not.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't
I
know,
love it.
it might be bad, but
Yeah, my budget for my vacation just Just broke.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
all right, perfect. As we near the end of the conversation, I do want to talk now about how innovation fatigue, I think, is also a real thing. We go to places like high tech, we might feel overwhelmed at the pace and the volume of what we see. Where would you recommend that people, especially the hoteliers, kind of focused first? What questions should they be asking to sort of figure out where their teams are truly ready to adopt new technologies, or where that need is, or the highest impact, and not just pilot it, but like really start to integrate and use it?
So for me, I mean, listen, this is the same, I would say, even in my own business, right? Is that sometimes you get so stuck in the weeds and you're just doing your day to day jobs and you just live with what's there because you don't have time to do anything different, right? So for me, and listen, I should listen to my own advice, right? It's take a step back out of the business. What are you trying to achieve? What are your ultimate goals? Because you need to make sure that what you build around you ultimately supports that. And to me, that's the biggest thing. And I think that with this ever changing technology, it's so critical to know what the journey is that you're on, and then looking at technologies to say, what is going to support the journey? And there's so many options out there, right? And I think about Amadeus, right? But we're trying to bring as much of that together so that really it's a seamless integration across all the products. And from a data perspective, that's critical in providing accurate data in one location. But at the same time, that's not for everybody. And so it's find your core, and then either you can get it all from one player, or you can work with partners. And that's, again, that's what I do, because I feel like all I'm here to do is to bring the most value to the industry. And so whether that's just through us or through partners, we're here to support that. And I think that that's really important. Take that step back. What's your journey, and what technology and data is going to support you in your success? And I know it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, but I really do believe that that's the right approach in the next 90 days. After you kind of have it all fresh in your head of all the different things you saw, take that step back and say, how are these companies going to support my success?
Perfect. Sridhar, would you have any other advice that you might like to add in terms of how to combat innovation fatigue?
So my perspective is probably a little bit from the opposite end of what Katie mentioned, in the sense that, um, I mean, data is foundational, AI is aspirational, but to make AI work properly, the foundation needs to be in place. So, don't have fatigue saying, "Oh, I got to fix the data and then AI will work." No, I mean, it's okay to try and see where it breaks, have a governance committee, and be careful about the use cases you select, and assume that there will be some issues and some mistakes, but foundation, fix the foundation, make it better, and keep experimenting with AI. I think this time next year, I mean, that's one way I think to avoid innovation fatigue. Can
And
you?
I did. Thank you. I was just kind of complimenting on what you had to say, Sridhar, about, the ability the advice of taking that step back, but then also not letting that hold you back, I think is how I understood it,
100%.
and setting up those guardrails and just being able to kind of still be motivated to take those little steps.
Right. Thank you.
This has been a great conversation today. I would like to kind of ask you both to boil down your high tech 2025 insights into one actionable takeaway. Yours, Katie, was take that breath, evaluate your ultimate goals, and then see what can kind of help get you there. Anything else that we'd like to do in that sort of 90-day, 3-month kind of time frame? What might your advice be, Sridhar? I think I could let you take that one. And Katie, if you have anything else to add, I'll give you a moment to mull it over.
Okay.
Um, I think what I learned from high tech is that when it comes to AI and also talk fixing data, this community is pretty close knit. And I think if you look at other communities like the consumer products industry or the retail industry, they are not codependent in one ecosystem the way hospitality, travel and hospitality is, right? I mean, the airports depend on the airlines. They need to, they're not directly, airlines are not really in competition with the hotels, and there's like so many moving parts, but they all need to work together in one ecosystem, with the Amadeuses of the world. And I think keep watching what your partners and your ecosystem companies are doing, and there will be good ideas, uh, and to work with your partners as well. So I think I'll stop there.
All right, I love it. We're back to that big P word of partners. It all comes down to people. So just keep those communications open and keep having those conversations. Katie, any final last words that you'd like to close us with today?
No, I mean, for me, we're a tight knit community in hospitality, and I think that for my focus, it's about making sure that I'm helping the ecosystem, the travel ecosystem, and it's not only in hotels, it's in airlines and airports, and throughout the journey for the traveler. And so that's kind of my focus and my takeaway is how do I leverage all that I know, all that I learned, all the relationships that I've built to be able to ultimately help the traveler journey. And I think that that's kind of my main focus area. And I think HITEC helps me kind of get clarity in different areas that that can help me achieve my goal. So
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of our episode today on Dojo Live. A big thank you to you, Katie Moro, for walking us through the insights and innovations that really stood out at HITEC 2025. And of course, to you, Shridhar Padmanabhan, for adding such thoughtful perspective to the conversation. Before we go, Katie, if anyone wants to connect or learn more about your work at Amadeus or access those market level insights, what's the best way to do that?
So, I mean, obviously through LinkedIn, you can get a lot of information and all the updates that we're sharing, but then also on our website, AmadeusHospitality.com, I believe, and somebody might, yep, there we go, -hospitality.com. And you can leverage, some free market reports. So they're there online and could give good insights into your area and how it's performing and where there may be opportunities for you to be successful.
Perfect. Thank you. And if we haven't done so already, I can get the connections and we can do those links also in the landing page for today's show and have them
Perfect.
available.
That'd be great. Yeah, we can provide
Amazing. And of course, thank you to Encora for making these conversations possible. At Encora, we do help leading travel and hospitality companies stay ahead with world-class engineering and tech solutions, built to scale. Shridhar, if someone wants to follow up with you or learn more about how Encora supports the industry, where should they go?
Thanks for having the URL online. And while it might be a bit tricky to find me on LinkedIn because of the spelling of my name, just hit pause on the screen right now and I'm on LinkedIn. So there aren't too many of us around.
I love it. Perfect. And of course, to our audience, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to follow Dojo Live, where you can explore past episodes and also see what's coming next. Speaking of what is next, we do have a live show tomorrow, July 10th, also at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific. We're going to be going live with a special Spanish language edition hosted by America Guerrero and Jose Matuk. This is going to be featuring Fabricio Titero, who is Global Director of Partnerships at Oracle Hospitality. The episode is titled La Nueva Era de Hospitalidad, Tendencias, Marketplace, and Integraciones en un Ecosistema Conectado. That means we're going to be exploring how collaboration and not just technology is driving the future of hospitality in Latin America and beyond. So for you Spanish speakers, bilinguals, do not miss it. For the rest of you, maybe we'll get a translation out there one of these days. At any rate, thank you so much for joining us, Katie, Shridhar. See you tomorrow. And until then, stay curious, stay innovative, and bye for now.
Thank you.